This is the story of Dolores J. In Ohio, USA, a man named Carroll J. was a Methodist minister. He had a wife named Dolores J. Both Carroll and Dolores were Methodist Christians. In 1954, Carroll began practicing hypnosis to help people get relief from chronic pain, but he also began hypnotizing people for past life regression in the 1960s. Past life regression has to do with helping people remember their past lives. When his wife Dolores began to have back pain, Carroll decided to hypnotize his wife so that she could get some relief. But when Dolores became hypnotized, she began to speak German. Dolores didn't speak German in her normal state of consciousness, and she never learned the language. But in her hypnotized state, she spoke German, and she claimed to be a girl named Gretchen Gottlieb. Dolores was bewildered and a little scared because she could speak German in her hypnotized state. While Dolores was hypnotized, she could write in German. Also, the handwriting style of Dolores in her hypnotized state was different than the handwriting style of Dolores in her normal state of consciousness. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a Canadian-born American psychiatrist, was fascinated with children who remembered their past lives. It seemed like whenever there was news of something to do with reincarnation, Dr. Stevenson would go out to get the full story. Hence, when Dr. Stevenson learned about the story of Dolores speaking German, he traveled to Ohio to meet with the Jays. Dr. Stevenson knew German, so he could speak with Dolores in her hypnotized state, but he also had a few German academics speak with Dolores. They spoke with one another for about 2 years. According to the native German speakers, Gretchen, aka hypnotized Dolores, could answer questions and carry on conversations in German, and she had a heavy accent. However, she made multiple grammatical errors, and some of her statements didn't make sense. Dr. Stevenson wanted to rule out fraud, so he traveled to the place where Carroll and Dolores grew up, and he talked with a local historian. According to the historian, there were no German teachers in the schools that Dolores attended. In addition, Dr. Stevenson contacted Dolores' family. He talked with Boyd, Dolores' father, Laura, Dolores' mother, and Mary, Dolores' sister. All of them said they did not know German, and they said their neighbors didn't know German. What's more, they signed documents with these statements. Furthermore, Dr. Stevenson gave Dolores a lie detector test to see whether she was telling the truth about everything. Dolores passed the lie detector test. Therefore, Dr. Stevenson believed Dolores did not learn German in her lifetime. Gretchen spoke 120 different words before any German speaker spoke these words to her. This means she was not repeating the words of German speakers during their conversations. She was actually speaking words that she was not taught by the German speakers. Her pronunciation ranged from satisfactory to excellent. Sometimes she even corrected the mispronunciations of others. However, she did not speak grammatically correct sentences longer than 5 words, and she didn't speak sentences longer than 7 words. According to Dolores, she was a girl named Gretchen Gottlieb. Gretchen had brown hair and blue eyes or green eyes. She lived on a street called Birkenstrasse or Bergenstrasse, and she died at the age of 16. Gretchen had a father named Herman. He was the mayor of Eberswald, but her mother died when she was 8, and she had no brothers and sisters. Gretchen was afraid of the Bundesrat. The Bundesrat was a German cabinet that was active from 1875 to 1900. Gretchen talked negatively about Martin Luther, a German theologian and religious reformer. Gretchen was Catholic, but Martin Luther was a leader of Protestant Reformation. Catholics and Protestants have a history of conflict with one another. Gretchen stated the Pope was Leo. In fact, there were multiple popes named Leo in the 1800s, and Gretchen said she lived in the town of Eberswald. Though this town did exist, there was no mayor by the name of Herman in this town. However, there was a town called Heppenheim, which Gretchen mentioned. In this town, there was a street called Bergenstrasse, and in the 1800s, there was conflict between Protestants and Catholics. It's possible that Gretchen lived there in the 1800s. In her normal state of consciousness, Dolores was a Methodist Christian, but in her hypnotized state, Gretchen was Catholic, and Dolores' memories of Gretchen were an indication she experienced reincarnation. This conflicted with her beliefs. When the Washington Post wrote a story on Dolores' ability to speak German when she was hypnotized, Christians who knew the couple learned about the story, and some of them said the Jays were dealing with the devil. About a year before Dolores began speaking German, Dolores had an interesting dream. In her dream, there was a little girl riding a horse, and an older man was walking nearby. Also, there was a crowd of angry people. One of the men from the crowd grabbed the bridle of the horse. Then Dolores awoke. This dream may have been an indication that Gretchen would eventually appear in the consciousness of Dolores. The little girl may have symbolized Gretchen, the older man may have symbolized Gretchen's father, and Gretchen's father owned a horse. Lastly, the crowd of angry people may have symbolized the Protestants. Gretchen was a Catholic, and Catholics and Protestants had conflict with one another. Hey guys, what do you think about Dolores' story? Let me know in the comments below. And last but not least, have an amazing, wonderful day.